Hello mis amores and welcome back to my channel. I hope you're doing great. I hope you're having an amazing day. And tonight it's time for another Christmas story. I've got my book of short stories from A Rainbow Rowell again. She's got a lot of Christmas stories in here, or at least stories that are set in December. And we are in December now. I don't know if we feel festive, but maybe after this or during this video you kind of feel a little bit more festive if you don't already feel like that. And without further ado, let's get into the next story. Tonight we're gonna read The Snowball by Rainbow Rowell. And I hope you enjoy. The Snowball. It was Christmas Eve, and Owen and Libby weren't gonna watch Meet Me in St. Louis together, even though it was Christmas Eve, and they always watched Meet Me in St. Louis together on Christmas Eve. Well, always for the last 3 years. Libby and Owen met freshman year when they were both trying out for the fall play. Neither of them got a part. They ended up as stagehands, wearing black t-shirts and black work gloves, and realizing that they always had something to say to each other. Being with Owen was easy. Libby could be herself. She couldn't even manage that when she was alone. They had everything important in common, and the ways that they were different were interesting, not irritating. Well, Libby never got irritated with Owen. He got irritated with her sometimes, but everyone got irritated with Libby. Her mom said she was abrasive. The nice thing about Owen was that he didn't seem to mind being irritated with her. Like, being irritated with her ultimately wasn't that irritating for him. They both loved acting. They loved theater and old movies. They loved quoting their favorite things at each other. They loved having theme nights, theme weeks. They loved rituals. They both loved Christmas. It was Libby's idea to spend their first Christmas as best friends watching all their favorite Christmas movies together. And then the next year, when they did it again, Owen had said, "I guess this is our tradition now." Libby had loved that he'd said that. She loved having traditions with Owen. She loved that their whole friendship was a secret handshake. This was their 4th Christmas as best friends. They'd watched Elf last night, and tomorrow they were gonna watch It's a Wonderful Life. And tonight was supposed to be Meet Me in St. Louis. They both loved Judy Garland. Libby's mom said that probably meant that Owen was gay. Libby told her mom that that was a very retro assumption. Libby kind of wished that Owen was gay, then he'd probably stay home with her tonight. They were supposed to spend the night on the leather couch in Owen's family room. Owen was supposed to make popcorn and Libby was supposed to eat it all. And then at the end of the movie, Owen would sing, "Have yourself a merry little Christmas." And Libby would tell him to stop being so maudlin, for Pete's sake. It was tradition. Their tradition. And what was Owen doing instead? "So you're going to the snowball," Libby said. The snowball. Owen ignored her. He was trying to tie his bow tie in the mirror. Libby could see herself in the mirror too, sitting behind Owen on his bed. She was making a face like one of those cats who look disgusted with everything because they have really mean eyebrows. "It's like a snowball," she said, "but also like a snowball. Get it?" "God," Owen said, rubbing his arms. "It's still crooked." Libby looked at his pink bow tie, and his mermaid green jacket, and his skinny black pants. He looked very dapper. Owen always looked nice, at least to Libby. He was careful with his clothes and his hair, and he projected confidence, even though he was smaller than most boys. He always looked good, but tonight he looked shined up and special, like a boy in a movie. They were usually shorter than you expected, too. "You look fine," she said, falling back on his bed. "You didn't even look." I looked." He looked away from the mirror and bumped his knee against hers. "Look." Libby sat up and pushed her glasses up higher on her nose. Owen's wavy brown hair was slicked back. He'd shaved. Owen shaved now. His chin was sharp and his brown eyes were bright. "Okay," she said. "I'm looking. What am I supposed to be looking at?" "This tie," he said. "Is it ridiculous?" "All ties are ridiculous." "Libby." She looked closely at his tie and then reached up and pulled it undone. "Yes." His face fell. Jesus Christ, Libby, that took me 15 minutes to tie. I'll bet it won't take that long next time. He turned back to his reflection, gritting his teeth. You're such a what? She asked the mirror. He puffed his breath, avoiding her eyes while he re-knotted his tie. You don't have to be here, you know, if you don't want to be. You told me to come over. You told me to come help you get ready. Yeah, but you're not helping, Libby. Did you actually think I would? Yes. He glanced over her shoulder, then shook his head. I hoped that you might rise to the occasion and psych me up. Be my corner man. What's a corner man? He ran his finger along the tie, straightening it behind his collar. That guy in a boxing match who, slaps you on the face and throws water at you and says you can do it. You should have told me that you wanted me to slap you, Libby said. I would have done it 12 times already. Owen turned away from the mirror again and stood at the end of the bed. His bed, looming over her. As much as you can loom when you're only 5'6". Libby was 3 inches taller than Owen. That never seemed to bother him. You're supposed to be telling me I can do this, he said. Libby frowned and scooted back on the bed, leaning against the headboard. She pulled one of his blue-striped pillows over her stomach. Do what? Tie a tie? You can. I just watched you. It was slow and pathetic and crooked in the end, but you got the job done. Go, you. Not the tie, Owen said, licking his bottom lip, resting his tongue there. It was a tic, the gratuitous lip licking. It called attention to how thin his lips were. His bottom lip was a smudge, and his top lip wasn't there at all. Really, it was just an edge, a rim, a thin pink bracket. Not the tie, he said again. The whole thing. You know this is the first time I've ever gone to a dance. I'm a senior. I'm 17 years old. And this is the first time I've gone to a dance. He was getting riled up now. Theatrical. Waving his arms around. He'd done a Mark Twain monologue last year in forensics, and he'd never abandoned the gestures. Because it's the first time that someone who I liked has actually said yes. You know I'm nervous, Libby, and you're my best friend. Can't you just try to be encouraging? Libby narrowed her eyes at him. There was hair in her eyes, so she pushed it behind her ear. You can do it, she said. Owen closed his eyes and shook his head again. Thanks a lot, he said bitterly. Whatever it is, Libby went on. What is it, anyway? Is it the dancing? Are you worried about the dancing? Owen huffed and went back to his bow tie, frowning down at the tails and squishing his chin into his neck so he could see what he was doing. I'm not worried about the dancing. 'Cause you're a good dancer, she said. He glanced up at her suspiciously. Thank you. You do that thing. She wrinkled her nose and popped her neck back and forth. He sighed and crossed one piece of the tie over the other, shaking his head. No, it's good, she said. I like it. I like it when you snap your fingers too. She snapped. I'm a perfectly good dancer, Libby. That's what I'm saying, Owen. You're a perfectly good dancer. So that must not be it. The thing you're worried about. He looked back at the mirror. Where are you taking her to dinner? Libby asked. Mother India. Nice, she said. Intimate? Did you make reservations? They don't take reservations. He undid the knot he was working on and took another deep breath. Does Carmen like Indian food? Cameron, he said. I know you know her name. She's in your creative writing class. Right, Libby said. Karen. You're not funny, Libby. Libby pushed the pillow off her lap. That doesn't reflect poorly on me, you know. I can't help how unfunny I am, but you chose me as your best friend. It's your bad taste that's in question here. I didn't choose you, he muttered, watching his own neck in the mirror. His chin was lifted. His Adam's apple was suspended. I picked you up like a weird rock or a feather and forgot that I stuck you in my pocket until 2 years later. That's very poetic, Libby said. You should be in my creative writing class. I'm pretty sure I'd remember your name if you were. Cameron likes Indian food, Owen said. I asked her. His bow tie was tied again and skewing badly to one side, listing like a doomed cruise liner. He grimaced and pulled it undone. Owen's hands were very small. If he'd been born during the Industrial Revolution, he'd probably have a horrible job that called for a small stature and nimble fingers. He played marimba in the school band, and he was always tapping out some rhythm on his leg or his desk or the back of Libby's head. "So you're not worried about the dancing?" she said. "You've got dinner in order, you've got your pink tie, you've finally got a girl you like to say yes. Is this the part where I slap you?" Owen looked genuinely miserable for a second. He let go of the tie and slumped back on his bed, his hands falling between his knees. "Never mind," he said. Libby frowned. She wasn't used to Owen looking miserable. She wasn't used to him acting insecure. She crawled forward on the bed and sat next to him. "Don't look like that." "Like what?" he said to the floor. "I don't know. That." "Leave me alone, Libby." "Like, really alone? Or shut up for a minute?" "Shut up for a minute." She shut up. She watched herself in the mirror. She was wearing faded jeans and an old navy sweater with a penguin on it. Her hair was pulled into a ponytail, but half a dozen dark curls had worked their way free. Owen looked dapper. Libby looked... not. Libby looked like Libby, tall and sloppy and careless. She looked like the kind of girl who'd never needed help zipping up a fancy dress. She pushed a curl behind her ear and leaned toward him. "You're a good dancer," she said again, more clearly. "Thanks. And it's a dance, so you'll be fine." "Right," he said, staring at the floor. He had a sprig of something green attached to his lapel. "That's nice," she said. "What's that?" "What?" "On your jacket." He glanced at his collar. "Mistletoe." "Nice touch," she said. "It's a Christmas dance." "I know," Libby nodded. "The snowball." He stared at the ground. "Much Christmas," she said. "Very dance." "You could come," he said, still looking at his knees, "if you want." "What?" Libby sat back. "You could come to the dance." "With you and Camden?" "Well, not to dinner, but you can meet us at the dance. A bunch of our friends will be there." "No, thank you," she said. "Why not?" "Because I don't dance." "I've seen you dance, Libby." "You have," she said, "but no one else needs to. It might be fun." "It's Christmas Eve, Owen. There are traditions to uphold. Somebody has to watch Meet Me in St. Louis. It isn't going to watch itself. Somebody has to eat chocolate oranges and light a candle for Judy Garland." He rolled his eyes. "I said I'd watch it with you tomorrow." "Tomorrow is Christmas Eve. On Christmas Eve, we watch It's a Wonderful Life. Don't upset the natural order of things." "You might like it," he said. "The dance." I won't like it." "How do you know?" "Because it's a dance, Owen. It's everyone I already don't like from school, but all dressed up and dancing. If I don't like them and sitting in desks, why would I like them dancing?" "It's not about them." "It's about Caitlin?" "No, it's about you," he said. "Trying something new." "Something new." "You only get so many high school dances in life." He waved his hand around. "You may as well go to one, so that you don't look back and feel like you missed out on something." "Huh," Libby said. "That's a compelling argument. Then, after the dance, maybe I should put my hand in the fireplace, just so that I know how it feels, just so I know I'm not missing out on something." Owen fell back on the bed. "You're infuriating." "Again," she said, turning to look down on him. "That's all on you. You chose me. You saw me on the shelf and thought, that one there, that's my best friend." "I didn't choose you," Owen muttered, rubbing his eyes. "I picked you up because you looked interesting and didn't realize I was still holding you until I'd already left the store." "You're like E.E. Cummings or something," she said. "You should write these things down." She fell back on the bed too. Owen folded his arms. They were both staring at the ceiling now. "I know that Jeremy Wheeler asked you to the snowball," Owen said. "It's not a secret," she said. "Jeremy's cute." Jeremy was fine. He looked like a guy in a Target ad. Everybody likes Jeremy Wheeler. Every time I see him, Libby said, I think on sale this week at your neighborhood Target. You like Jeremy Wheeler, Owen said. So what? She raised up her hand. Everybody likes him. Yeah, but he likes you. I'm likable, she said. No, Owen said. You're not. You like me. No, Owen sounded tired. I just don't know what to do with you. You haven't found a place to set me down yet. Exactly, Owen said. Here will do, she thought. Owen sat up and started over with his tie. He was being very brisk and dapper and on his way to a dance. You can do it, Libby said to the ceiling. Thanks. Whatever it is. Thanks. Is it Carolyn? Cameron. Whatever. Is she it? Owen shrugged. Maybe. Maybe, Libby repeated. I just don't want to mess this up, he said. I think she really likes me. That never happens. That happens? Shut up, Libby. People like you. Libby lifted herself up on her elbows to look at him. Who doesn't like you? Shut up, you know what I mean. Who doesn't like you? Seriously, who is this person who doesn't like you? I want to dissect them and document it for science. Libby, everyone likes you, Owen. Everyone did like Owen, even more than they liked Jeremy Wheeler. Libby had thought she and Owen were meant to be best friends because they were both misfits. They were both weirdos. But then Owen went and showed everyone that you could be weird and popular. Libby had thought those things were mutually exclusive. She'd wanted them to be. She'd wanted to keep Owen for herself. You know what I mean, he said like he couldn't hear her internal monologue. He was staring at his neck in the mirror. I mean girls. A girl like Cameron has never liked me. What kind of girl is that? Pretty, he said. Decent. She's really cool, you know. She could go to this dance with anybody, but she said yes to me. Maybe you were just the first person to ask her. Owen caught Libby's eyes in the mirror. Maybe I was. Maybe it's a fluke. I don't care. I don't want to mess this up. Libby rolled onto her side and let her cheek rest on the comforter, which smelled like Owen, which was such a familiar smell, it practically didn't smell like anything at all. How could you, even, she asked, mess it up? Lots of ways, he said. I'm afraid I'll mess it up without realizing I'm doing it, like I'll break some rule I didn't even know existed. She writes poems that don't rhyme, Libby said. So? In creative writing class. So, he repeated, poems don't have to rhyme. But it's nice when they do, Libby said. I guess. She twisted on the bed so she could see him again in the mirror. The time has come, the walrus said, to talk of many things, of shoe and ships and sealing wax, of cabbages and kings. It was Libby's favorite poem. Lewis Carroll. Owen ignored her. He pulled on one end of the bow tie and it slid out from around his neck. I'm just gonna wear a regular necktie. Everyone else will be wearing regular neckties. Then I'll fit right in. You're living the dream, aren't you? You don't have to be mean, Libby. I'm not. Libby sat up. She was sitting right next to him. He smelled like mistletoe. Apparently. I'm being your corner man, she said. Slap, splash, you can do it. He closed his eyes. You can do it, she said again. She'd keep saying it if he wanted her to. Whatever it is, dancing, dinner, Camry, just say her name. You're running out of reasonable facsimiles. Libby shrugged. We can watch the movie tomorrow, Libby. I'm watching something else tomorrow. It's just one night, he said. You better get to your dance, she said, or you'll spend the rest of your life regretting it. Maybe I like school dances. How would you know? She said quietly. Maybe I like Cameron, he said even more quietly. Great, Libby whispered. She said yes. Libby. Owen turned to her. He looked pained. He sounded pained. I just want to go to the dance and tell stupid jokes and listen to pop songs and maybe at the end of the night kiss somebody who isn't my grandmother. Worthy goals, he pointed at her, and you don't get to make me feel shitty about that. He shrugged again. How could I? He pointed harder. You don't get to take that away. Where would I put it? You're such a pain in the ass, Libby. And yet you chose me. I didn't choose you. Libby was making an angry face. There were tears in her eyes. Didn't you? No. He shook his head and let it fall into his hands. He sounded resigned. You were just there when I got here. I thought you were built in. Libby drew her knees up and pulled her sweater down over them. They both stared at Owen's duvet cover. It was plaid. I don't have time to argue with you, Owen said. Do you want me to go home? If you want. I'm sorry. His head jerked up. Really? She nodded. What are you sorry for? You're never sorry. I am so. Not with me, he said. She clenched her jaw for a second. Well, why would I want to hang out with someone who made me feel sorry all the time? Why are you sorry now? She hugged her knees. Because you told me to come over and help you get ready, and I don't think that I have. You haven't. Well, I'm sorry. Owen licked his lips. At some point, she waited. Libby, at some point we won't spend every Friday night together. We aren't spending this Friday night together. Exactly, he said. At some point, this has to happen. At this point, she said. Apparently. It's not fair. Owen almost never lost his temper, but this was what it looked like when he did. I asked you to the dance. No, Jeremy Wheeler asked me to the dance, Libby said. We were standing at the bus stop. He was all tall and nice and 40% off outerwear this week at Target. No, Owen said. I asked you last year. You mean to prom? Yes. And you said no. Because I didn't want to go to prom, Libby said. I wanted to watch Star Trek. On your mom's VHS tapes. Right. You could have watched that any time. Right, she agreed. I asked you to prom and you said no. What was his angle? I remember, she said. Okay, he said. So you have to give me tonight. I wanted to watch Star Trek last May, so I have to let you go to the snowball tonight? Owen nodded. Yes, but you're gonna go whether I let you or not. I am, he said. He licked his lips. So I'm not letting you, she said. You're just going. I want you to be happy for me. Why should I be happy for you? This dance sounds terrible. Not to me, he said. Because you're an idiot sometimes. Fair enough. I can't be happy for you, Owen. He clenched his fists between his knees. I asked you to prom, Libby. I wanted to watch Star Trek. And you said no. I asked you to watch Star Trek with me. Star Trek and prom aren't the same, Owen said. Agreed. Libby agreed. One sucks. One means something. Agreed. Owen licked his lips. He swallowed. He wound the tie around his fingers, licked his lips again, and then let it unwind. I don't know what you want from me. I want... Libby didn't know either. She didn't have a bow tie to fiddle with, so she rubbed her face in her knees. I want you to be my best friend. I am your best friend, he said it without even thinking about it. I don't want you to go to the dance, Owen. That's not fair. I don't care. I'm not trying to abandon you or leave you behind. Just come to the dance. To the snowball, Libby said, considering it. Well, considering it. Come, he said, put on a dress or don't. Go to one high school dance. Mark it off your list. I don't have a list, she said. Well, I do. He reached over and put his hand on her forearm. That was unprecedented. When you've been someone's best friend for 3 years, almost nothing is unprecedented. But this was. You have to let me have a list, Lib. I don't let you do anything, she whispered. You do what you want. Ha! He didn't laugh. I do what you want. But I thought doing what I wanted was what you wanted. Libby didn't understand why Owen was so upset. She was the one who should be upset. You asked me if I wanted to go to prom, she said. He nodded. I did. And I didn't want to. I understand, Libby. No, you don't. I didn't want to go to prom. That didn't mean I was signing away all my mineral and property rights. Be less weird, he begged her, just for a few minutes. I mean, I didn't want to go to prom, Owen. I wanted to watch Star Trek. I remember. With you. Owen stopped. He turned on the bed so he was fully facing her. He still had her arm. I actually don't know what you're talking about, Libby. I actually don't know what you're talking about now, Libby. I didn't know that was it, she said. What? What was it? She looked at her knees. Never mind. No, not never mind, Libby. You should go, she said. A girl that you like finally said yes. I asked you first, he said. You said no. To the prom, she said as quietly as she possibly could. Not to you. Owen started to say something. Then he licked his lips. He tilted his head. He didn't look at her. Then he did. Libby, you're holding onto my arm, she said. Do you want me to stop? No. If I'd asked you, God, Libby, what would I have to ask? What do you want? She lifted up her head. She looked in his eyes. I want you to stay home and watch Julie Garland with me. I got that part. I don't want you to dance with pretty girls or worry about messing things up with them. Okay. I don't want you to kiss anyone except your grandmother. You're telling me what you don't want, not what you want. Well, I'm better at that. I know. His hand slipped onto hers, completely unprecedented and cold. Tell me what you want from me, he said. Can we just be friends? She asked. We're really good at it. We're the best. He squeezed her hand. Do you want me to let go? No. What do I have to ask you? He said, to get a yes. Would you rather take me to the snowball than Cameron? Yes, Owen said. That was the best news Libby had heard all year. I want to be on your list, she said quickly. I don't want you to keep making it without me. Okay, he said. And I'll go to prom with you. We already missed prom. There's another one though, right? Eventually? You'll go to prom with me 5 months from now? Yes, she said. Do you want to? No, but I want you, Libby said. Owen squeezed her hand. He shoved his face forward. His chin jabbed into hers. He kissed her. This was without precedent. Owen's lips were thin. The bottom one was just a smudge, and the top one was a line, an edge, an opening pressed against hers. The kiss was short. Was that okay? Owen whispered. Yes. He tried it again. He pushed a little too hard with his mouth. Libby's hand came up to his chest. Still okay? He asked. Yes, she whispered. I've never done that before. Me neither. Can we keep doing it for a minute? He asked. Yes, So they did. When Owen pulled back, he ran his hand along Libby's hairline, untucking the curl from her ear and winding it around his finger. "I didn't think you wanted this," he said. "You never asked. So I wasn't supposed to ask you to prom. I was supposed to ask you if I could kiss you?" "It's always better to be specific, Owen." He huffed out a laugh. "I thought you said no to prom because you didn't want to ruin everything." "What's everything?" She was still whispering. "You and me, friendship." "I don't," she said. "But I'd rather we ruin it together than you ruin it with somebody else." "But you want this, Libby." I want you. I want you too." "That's nice to hear, Owen." Owen laughed and shook his head at her. "You're really weird, and not in a normal way. You're genuinely odd. You know that?" "I guess. Is that important?" "You're weird, and you make everything difficult, and could we have been kissing for the last year? Probably even before that." "Jesus, you're infuriating." She pulled out his lapel. "But yeah." He kissed her again. "I'm going to get really good at this, I promise." "I believe you." "You can do it." Owen kissed her. Every single kiss was softer and longer than the one before. Fibonacci sequence. They were never going to leave this room. "Okay, Libby," he said the next time he pulled away. "Jesus, okay." "I'm glad we worked this out," she said, taking a breath. He laughed. She smiled. Then he pulled away from her. "You know I'm still going to the dance, right?" Libby did not know that. "What? You can't." "I have to. Cameron's waiting for me." "But, Owen, what was the point of all this if you're still going to the snowball?" "I'm gonna pretend that you didn't say that." "Owen, I'm not a monster, Libby. She's waiting for me." "You're gonna go with her?" "I am." "And you're gonna dance with her?" "I am. And I'll probably have a really great time because I am in a fantastic mood." "Owen!" "And then I'll come back to your house, or here if you want, and I'll watch Meet Me in St. Louis with you." Owen stood up. He tied his bow tie. He watched Libby watching him in the mirror. She wanted to argue with him, but she also wanted to run her fingertips over her lips. When Owen turned back to face her, his tie was crooked. "Will you wait for me?" She nodded. "Yes." He unpinned the sprig of mistletoe from his jacket and attached it to Libby's sweater. That was so cute. We all saw it coming, but we love a bit of a romantic story, right? A nice little love story. And also, I feel like it would have been more of a red flag had he not gone to the dance with this Cameron girl. Rather, he's honest and go with that girl who's waiting for him to show up than not go at all. It would just be selfish to just stay home now and not go to the dance with a girl he had asked. That was a cute story. Merry Christmas, guys. I hope you're having a great day. I'll see you here next week. Or on Sunday, if you want the louder version of me. Thank you guys so much for listening to this video. Y entonces nos vemos la próxima vez. Y bye.